Following Ukraine's bold incursion into the Kursk region, located within Russian territory, the conflict between these two nations continues to escalate. A significant turning point in this war, which has raged since 2022, was the operation in the Kursk region. It is considered the most substantial attack launched by the Ukrainian military against Russian forces since World War II. To assert their commitment to expanding authority over Russian lands, Ukrainian forces conducted an operation that crossed into Russia's Kursk region. The military strike, launched by Kiev on Russian soil on August 6, caught everyone by surprise. Moscow, analysts, and even Ukraine's Western allies were left in disbelief. In the aftermath of the attack, a new perspective has emerged among the Russian population regarding the ongoing battle. The sudden assault shocked the Russian people, fueling widespread anger. Residents of the Kursk region have voiced serious accusations against Russia's political and military leadership, accusing them of abandonment. The inhabitants of Kursk express feelings of betrayal as they endure relentless assaults from the Ukrainian armed forces, which began a month ago. Dissatisfaction with the current regime continues to grow in the region. Recently, a video message sent by a local resident has gained attention online, capturing the voice of the people. This video, recorded on September 3 by a resident from the Arwelsk area in the Kursk region, highlights the harsh reality that locals have been left to fend for themselves, while sharply criticizing Russia's political and military leaders for their betrayal. Specifically, they demand that Russian generals and lawmakers be sent to the front lines of the conflict. According to local reports, the conflict in the Kursk region began a month ago. Ukraine has taken control of the borders, especially those shared with Russia. Unfortunately, the administration and authorities failed to provide any warning in advance, abandoning the people when they needed help the most. Meanwhile, the media reports claim victory, but the war is still very much present in our towns and cities. What strategies are the homeless adopting to avoid becoming displaced? Confiscating the assets of those responsible, like Gerasimov, Ivanov, and Shoigu, and distributing them among the brave soldiers fighting on the front lines. Right now, we are in the midst of a serious and deep struggle, betrayed by those in power who prioritize their own interests over our expectations. Their children live abroad while we fight. Gather your family and prepare for battle. According to my estimates, we may see the resolution of this conflict within a month. Despite the challenges faced by Kursk residents, it seems no one is paying attention. How did we reach this point? The nature of the crisis hasn't changed. Why aren't we making it a priority? Winter is approaching. Where should the operational bases be established? Please tell us when this operation will end, when the conflict will be resolved. Is anyone prepared to defend the citizens? The people of Kursk have reportedly reached out directly to Vladimir Putin, their commander-in-chief, urging him to take immediate action to restore order in the nation. While the population knew a military operation would occur soon, it's clear this isn't just a military operation, this is war. And it's happening right in their backyard, leaving them feeling uneasy and disturbed by the unsettling circumstances. As for Ukraine, the Russian people are experiencing a mix of confusion and anger. Some see it as a major setback, while others believe external forces are at play. The evacuation process for Kursk residents is ongoing, with hundreds of shelters being set up across the country. The amount of territory Ukraine has reclaimed in just 2 weeks exceeds what Russia managed to capture in an entire year. It's a dramatic shift on the battlefield. Even after a month, Moscow's reinforcements have failed to maintain their position in the Kursk region against Ukraine's unexpected assault. The Kremlin now faces a critical dilemma. Should we send additional battalions to bolster Russia's defensive lines, or focus on maintaining their occupation forces in Ukraine? Moscow continues to recruit new service members, only sending contracted soldiers to the grim battlefields in Ukraine. The Kursk offensive has dramatically shifted the delicate political landscape. Ukraine launched a counteroffensive on Russian forces in their own territory, placing inexperienced, poorly trained young men in perilous combat situations. Reports indicate that Kiev's forces have captured hundreds of enemy fighters, taking them as prisoners of war during the early stages of the invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin has been aware of the potential political ramifications of military aid to Ukraine. In a televised speech in March 2022, Putin addressed concerns from the mothers of conscripted soldiers, declaring, "I want to make it clear that conscripts are not involved in combat operations," further stating that there would be no future mobilizations for reservists. Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, is now authorized to register soldiers deployed to border areas, as troops have been sent there. In the future, this could potentially lead to legal complications. On August 10, just 4 days after Ukraine's involvement, Russian mothers voiced concerns about their sons being drawn into active conflict. These mothers stepped forward to express their worries. Oksana Devia, a determined mother from the Kursk region, took the lead by starting a petition demanding the safe return of our brave warriors, currently serving on the front lines. According to OCNO, an independent Russian news site, approximately 3,000 people signed up within just 3 working days in response to what was described as wails and explosions. Apti Laudin, the commander of the Chechen Special Forces Volunteer Battalion, issued a bold statement on Monday. In a message circulated through the press, AP Alanov made the following declaration: "One meets their end only when their time has come. However, if you fall in service, defending Russia and your faith in God, you will ascend to heaven." In the broader context of this matter, Putin has been keeping his strategy close to the chest. According to a study by the Institute for the Study of War, a Washington-based think tank, organizations representing the mothers of soldiers wield significant political power in Russia. Historically, these groups have played a decisive role in shaping key social movements. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, an organization initially known as the Committee of Soldiers' Mothers, which later evolved into the Union of Soldiers' Mothers Committees, took a strong stance on crucial issues affecting Soviet soldiers. They advocated for greater accountability and awareness within the Soviet armed forces, calling for more openness in the ranks. During the early phases of the current conflict, Putin assured the families of conscripts that it would be the professional soldiers who would bear the brunt of the war effort. But the Russian president has since been forced to take drastic measures due to the high number of casualties among special forces and army veterans. Amnesty is being offered to criminals, legal residency to immigrants, and substantial enlistment bonuses to non-ethnic Russians in exchange for their service in Ukraine. In the past week alone, Ukrainian forces have captured 19 Russian settlements, a significant victory. But it is a pace that Russian forces, currently advancing in eastern Ukraine, simply cannot match. Despite some minor gains, Ukraine's achievements are noteworthy not only for the land they've reclaimed but also for the momentum they've gained on the battlefield. In a particular sector of the front, Ukraine remains steadfast and vigilant, determined to defend its territory at any cost. Lieutenant General Ben Hodges noted that Ukraine's recent maneuvers caught everyone off guard, not only because of their location but also due to their extraordinary success. He credited the Ukrainians' ability to build an anti-drone bubble that effectively disables or neutralizes Russian drones. Hodges attributed this to Ukraine's sharp analysis. Russia has been using Shahid drones, designed by Iran, to strike both Ukraine's front lines and metropolitan areas. Additionally, Russia has adopted Ukraine's tactic of deploying smaller, first-person view, FPV drones for reconnaissance of enemy positions. Military experts are urging Ukraine's Western allies to maintain the momentum in their military support and remove any restrictions on the deployment of such aid. It is known that Ukraine has used equipment supplied by the U.S. to enhance its military capabilities in Kursk, in addition to the missiles that reportedly destroyed 3 bridges over the same river in the Kursk region last Wednesday. Cluster bombs were deployed with the intention of destroying pontoon bridges, effectively severing supply routes to a critical Russian supply hub in Glushkin. Meanwhile, the Russian military is relying on reserves dating back to the Soviet era. Despite dedicating budgetary resources to the war effort, Putin could have reallocated these funds to modernize Russia's energy sector, which is currently in a precarious state. The Russian Federation's Minister of Energy made a bold revelation, stating that the energy reserves built during the Soviet era have been completely depleted. The issue of electricity shortages has now arisen in the Far East for the first time. The cause is clear. The modernization of our facilities is hindered by a lack of adequate funding. Despite outdated technology performing poorly and losing its value, the government has not provided the necessary funds to replace it. According to Sergei Gilov, the energy system in the Far East is currently experiencing a severe shortage of reserves available for energy production. This situation urgently requires attention and strategic planning to ensure operational readiness. As a result, certain regions of the Russian Federation may face electricity and heating shortages during the winter months. The article emphasizes that even Putin is aware of the looming problem. It has come to the Kremlin's attention that energy consumption in the Far East is rapidly increasing, causing some settlements to experience power shortages. Due to this, it is critical to address the issue and devise strategic plans to ensure all regions have the energy necessary to thrive. In summary, the Royal United Services Institute stated that the Kursk operation was part of Ukraine's strategy to counter Russia's overwhelming economic and numerical advantage through the use of surprise, flexibility, and tactical creativity. This was asserted in the context of the Kursk operation by 4 Rusi specialists who recently traveled to Kyiv. These experts visited Kyiv earlier this year, and they believe Ukraine is laying the groundwork for possible negotiations with Moscow. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces continue to advance in the Kursk region, pushing deeper into Russian-controlled territory just 2 days ago. Our brave soldiers from the armed forces have made significant advances in the region of Gluskiv. It has been reported that Russian forces are regaining control over certain communities and ramping up their activities in the Kursk region. They have also announced a counteroffensive. These intelligence reports come directly from research conducted by the Institute for the Study of War. Ukrainian forces are advancing towards the outskirts of southeast Bolfin, located southwest of the Glushkov region. Meanwhile, Kremlin propagandists claim that Putin's troops have successfully retaken Vasil, located southwest of Glushkov, in the southern outskirts of Veli, as well as in the Novus Lyak district to the south and VMI to the southeast of Vasil. Ukrainian forces are actively engaging in offensive actions in Veli, which is situated at the extreme southern part of the city. Ukrainian forces are conducting an offensive operation in the Limka region, southeast of Korino, as well as near Malna, north of Suja. They are executing strategic maneuvers in these critical areas, which is increasing their momentum. In order to hold the line in the Gluskiv region, Russian troops from the UO Airborne Regiment and the Sento Creo Airborne Division are actively contributing. Currently, Russian forces have made significant advances in CS China, allowing them to successfully retake the settlement. Recent geo-located photographs taken on September 14th and 15th show adversary activities advancing through the fields east of October 10th.
These fields are located south of Korino and west of Lviv.
The Russian military command is now sending additional troops to Kursk, China, including several special units such as Arbat, Sarmat, and the Donbass Wild Division, as well as troops from the 387th Russian Battalion of the 800th Marine Infantry Brigade, all currently involved in operations within the Karini district. Soldiers from the 51st Russian Air Regiment are now participating in operations in the ESN Agosti region, south of Korino. Meanwhile, units from the 155th Marine Infantry Brigade are carrying out attacks in the Dorino region, southeast of Korino. Following the Russian military's launch of a counteroffensive on September 15th, the first satellite images from the Glusy district in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation were transmitted online. Reports indicate that enemy forces are building 2 new pontoon bridges across the Sime River. On the left bank of the river, signs of a large fire have been observed. Russia has amassed a strong force of 40,000 personnel to combat its adversaries.
The enemy is facing significant challenges in launching their attacks.
Lieutenant General Ihor Romanenko, former deputy chief of the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, stated that Russian forces are coordinating an assault on 3 fronts, from the north, west, and southeast, in an attempt to achieve maximum effectiveness. He emphasized that a force of at least 30,000 soldiers was deemed necessary for the success of the operation. However, according to assessments by Western specialists, they managed to gather around 40,000 men, which is a considerable number, noted Romanenko. It was reported that the Russians had sent their highly trained regiments, including airborne and naval troops, to Karina. At the same time, there has been a noticeable decline in the use of guided aerial bombs and first-person view drones. A standout aspect of this conflict is Russia's significant motorized infantry force, equipped with mechanized units. Romanenko pointed out that Ukrainian defense forces are making concerted efforts to address challenges related to mobile operations. Ukrainian soldiers have moved to Karina, where they are currently involved in mobile defense operations and also conducting tactical maneuvers. Traditional Russian defense strategies rely on trenches and long-term firing points, making their positions visible and allowing for effective engagement. However, when it comes to mobile defense, the Russians struggle to establish contact with their enemies and have a hard time understanding both their own stance and the perspective of their opponents. It was only a matter of time before something like this happened, that's for sure. We're maximizing the effectiveness of our resources through optimization, Romanenko said during an action taking place in Kyiv Oblast. He observed that Russian forces advanced 10 kilometers with a force of 35,000 soldiers. During this time, Ukrainian forces launched an assault on Kaina with 15,000 soldiers, advancing between 35 and 40 kilometers, essentially establishing a buffer zone. The Russians are increasing the number of troops on the ground in an effort to push back the Ukrainian armed forces. According to Romanenko, despite the challenges, the Russian army has made advances in specific areas of Kursk, China. Western analysts believe that to achieve this goal, Russia will need a force of between 80,000 and 100,000 soldiers. To stay updated on the latest developments, Don't forget to click the follow button and give this video a thumbs up. Stay alert!